Now we'll bring the elements into our layouts and add some color. So we're on our 3 artboard overview. The shortcut is Option-Command-0 on a Mac or Control-Alt-0 on a PC to get this view. And if you're working in version CS3 or earlier, for these next steps you'll need to have the appropriate files open, and you'll just copy and paste from one file to another since you'll be working on just one artboard per file. Now select all 3 objects, the 2 frames and the swirl design, and holding down Option or Alt, drag out a copy over here to the layouts, and then just position them on their respective artboards. This one belongs down here on the notepaper layout, and the swirls can just go to the side of this artboard, and the swirls frame goes up here. So in CS4 and CS5, you're working on multiple artboards and will need to move everything up to the My Art Layout layer. So select the elements, and then over in the Layers panel, drag the icons up to the top layer. In CS3, you'll just paste everything on this top layer when you copy them from the other file you've been working in. Now I want to turn the other layers off so that just the 2 art layout layers are visible, and you should have the tracing art layer locked. And we'll start with the notepaper first. So I'll focus in on this artboard and select the frame and rotate it 90 degrees. I'm using the shortcut E for the free transform tool and rotating, holding down Shift to constrain the rotation angle. Okay, now back to the arrow tool, and I'm just going to stretch each side of the bounding box out until it reaches the edges of the page and the guide in the center of the page. And if for some reason you can't see the center guide in this file, just go to the View menu and choose Show Guides. And now I want to give this shape a gradient fill and no stroke, and so I'll go up to the swatches panel and select the swatch for the gradient here on the right and set the stroke to none in the color panel. Alright, and now to add the swirls. I'll just drag them into place and ungroup them once. The shortcut is Command-Shift-G on a Mac or Control-Shift-G on a PC. And this is a nested group, so we still maintain each grouping of the individual swirls with their end caps. For my design, I deleted the tendril here, but really this part of the arrangement is totally up to you, so you should arrange this however you like. I'm going to select each of these swirls, holding down Shift to add them to my selection. And now we're going to change the color to white. And this will take a couple of steps because remember we have the swirls which have strokes and the end caps which have fills. So with them all selected, I'll go up to the color panel, and you'll see the question marks here because we have 2 different stroke and fill properties within this one selection. And select the stroke icon, change it to white, and so now we're halfway there, but the end caps need fixing. So get the white arrow, the shortcut is A, and select just one end cap. The white arrow allows us to select an object within a group. And you'll see back in the color panel, the end cap has a black fill and a white stroke. And so before I change this, I want to select all of them so I can change them all in one step. So go over to the Select menu and choose Select, Same, and Fill and Stroke. And now only the end caps are selected. And so I can go back up to the color panel and swap the fill and stroke. The shortcut is Shift-X, and now I have a white fill and a black stroke. And then select that stroke icon and change it to none, and now I've got just the white filled end caps and my groups are still intact. So I'll switch back to the black arrow and just grab these swirls and start arranging them. And this is the part where you take over and have fun copying, rotating, reflecting, and making it your own. The nice thing about this color combination is that the white swirls are invisible on the white paper here outside the frame shape. So once you have them arranged, it's ready to print. And you can always just turn the tracing guide off when you're done and duplicate your own design over to the right-hand side of the page. Okay, so now let's focus on the fold-over card. First, we need to reduce this frame, so select it and go over to the Tool panel, double-click on the Scale tool, and type in 75% and hit OK. Now to align it. With Smart Guides on, it's easy enough to get the vertical centering right by centering it up with the tracing design on the right, and you can see the guides light up. And then to center it horizontally, I'll pull out a guide from the rulers. If you don't have rulers turned on, the shortcut is Command or Control R. And as you drag out a guide, hold down Shift and you'll see it snaps to the ruler increments. So it's a little easier to be accurate that way. And then we want to get to the midpoint. It's 2 3/4 inches here, and release. Now I'll select the frame and drag to center this frame on the guide, and then keep it aligned to the frame on the right. The smart guides light up to help us there, and then release. Next I'll add some color. With my white arrow, I'll select the center frame shape and go over to the Graphic Styles panel. It's located right behind the Appearance panel in the Essentials or Basic workspace, and click on this turquoise style in the middle here. And so not only is this a color fill, but there's also an inner glow as part of this style too. Next, we'll do the type. And if you've downloaded the font Aphrodite Slim, then you can follow along with these next few steps. And of course, you can use any font you like here. So just grab the type tool and type in your text, and go up to the control bar, and you can just type in the first few letters to get the font Aphrodite Slim, and I've set mine at 40 points. And then use the guide here to center it up. And now I won't be using the center guide anymore, so right click or control click on a Mac, and I can just unlock the guide and delete it. My remaining guides are on the locked tracing layer, and so I'll just leave those as is. Now select the type, and we're going to apply another graphic style. This one changes the fill to white and adds a drop shadow. And I made these two graphic styles just for this file. It's a nice feature in Illustrator, so if you haven't explored this already, you can look up graphic styles in the Help menu and find out more on how to make your own. Next, we have a few more color changes to make, so I'll select the frame and ungroup once so I can get the swirls apart from the frame. And the quickest way to change the remaining colors on the frame is to select each path with the white arrow, switch to the eyedropper, I is the shortcut, and then just sample from the tracing art on the right, and go back and forth. And you can use Command or Control on a PC to temporarily toggle back to the white arrow from the eyedropper. Now to change the swirls color, select them with the black arrow, and then up in the color panel, make sure you have the stroke selected. We'll do this the same as we did the swirls on the note paper. So choose the lime green swatch here first to change the stroke. And now grab your white arrow and select one of the end caps. And go up to the Select menu and choose Select, Same, Fill and Stroke. And that will leave us with just our green and black end caps selected. Then back in the color panel, we'll swap the fill and stroke. The shortcut is Shift X. And then with the stroke icon selected, change it to None. And that completes the fold-over design. Alright, now you have two designs you can print, and of course you can repurpose these frames and swirls in so many different ways. So when you finish this part of the project, not only will you have a lot of art you can use, but you'll have a lot of skills you can use too. So when you're ready, meet me in the next lesson. This is our last lesson, and here we'll be creating the linework border. So go ahead and open the file lcswirl_vine for your version of Illustrator, and you'll see the sample art here that we'll be following. It's just on one artboard. And the purpose of this exercise, other than to make this lovely border, is to teach you a few tricks for taking spirals to the next level. That is, to transform your spirals from the regular geometric style that we've been working with to something more irregular and organic like this, a style of spiral that will harmonize better with vines and flowers. So go to the grid file one last time and get the wavy line here on the right and the leaf, copy these, and then back to the vine file. And then select the My Linework layer here at the top. The tracing layer should be locked. And then paste the leaf and vine paths. And with these two elements selected, go up to the stroke panel and choose the rounded end cap. And this will make the line work look a little more organic. And then turn off Smart Guides for this lesson since we're not aligning things to the tracing art this time. Command or Control U is the shortcut. And now we'll take a slightly different approach for this file. Rather than placing everything directly on top of the tracing guide art, I want to work off to the side a bit, and this will make it easier for you to vary the design as you like without being constrained to the sample art. And I'll start by lining up my vine path with the sample, and I'm just doing this by eye. It's really not necessary that these be aligned perfectly. And now I'll use my left arrow key to bump this over. I'm going 3 inches to the left here, that's 6 spaces. And remember, we set our keyboard increment at 1/2 inch earlier when we set our preferences. And the vine, you can see, is overlapping the edge of the artboard at the top and bottom. This is a 12 by 12 inch artboard, so this border would work for a scrapbook layout, and the extra at the top and bottom is just some bleed if you need it. And all along this vine, I'm using the leaf at different lengths and angles just by stretching it, flipping it, rotating it. It's all the same shape, but I'm just making it longer or shorter just to vary the design a bit. So use the sample art loosely as a guide. I'm just going to place my leaves along the vine here. And this part is up to you. I like having things a little irregular for this border. Okay, and so now we need some spirals, and I'll zoom in here to focus on this one part of the design here, and I'll grab the spiral tool and click on the artboard and then type in these measurements: 0.3 for the radius, 75% decay, and 8 segments, and choose the second direction option, and that will give us a nice little loose spiral. So I can take this spiral and just add it here so it looks like it's growing out of the vine. And in comparison to the one on the right, you can see it's a little too geometric. So to vary it, I'll be using the Reshape tool, and I want to demonstrate this first on a copy. So if I were to try editing this spiral with the white arrow, I'm limited to moving one anchor point at a time, or one segment at a time. But the Reshape tool allows me to shift the whole path at one time. So to show you this, I'll select the spiral with the black arrow, and it's important to use the black arrow here rather than the white arrow because we want to get all the points and segments on this path. And then go over to the tool panel, select the Reshape tool. It lives under the Scale tool. And see, when I drag on an anchor point, the 2 endpoints are nailed down. These 2 points don't move, but every other point between them can move, so I can shift the whole path. I can also grab one endpoint, and then the other endpoint will stay nailed down like this. And one other thing about the Reshape tool, if you use it on a segment, like by clicking and dragging between these 2 anchor points here, then you add an anchor point, and see, there's the new anchor point. So to keep things smooth and not add any extraneous anchor points, I like to grab a point rather than a segment between points. Okay, so now that you know a little something about this tool, let's try it out on the spiral tendril here on the vine. First, selecting it with the black arrow, and then I'll get the Reshape tool. And I'm just making this a little more natural looking, so play around with these and get the feel for it. And you can always go back and just grab the white arrow and make an adjustment here and there. But it's a subtle little transformation here to make these appear just a little more natural. And now I'm going to make copies and scatter them around on the vine, sort of loosely following the vine on the right. And you'll probably want to just take your time here, finessing each one of these rather than just copying them, because it's so much fun to edit spirals with the Reshape tool. And then you can reflect and rotate them and cut them with the scissors tool, whatever you like. And now we'll create one last spiral. This time, get the spiral tool and make one a 0.75 inch radius and a 75% decay and 13 segments, and then choose the first style option and hit OK. And I'll place it so it looks like it's growing out of the vine. And now select it with the black arrow tool. We're going to use the Reshape tool again. And then grab the Reshape tool And I'll just grab it by this end point here in the center and then just pull it up. And I'm going to make another little adjustment here with the reshape tool. And isn't that sweet? So I'll just zoom out. And you'll want to make each of these little curlicues unique, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to copy and place these as is. And maybe I'll just make a few adjustments as I go. And then one other detail we have here is this dotted line, and it's just a copy of the wavy line in the center. So I'll copy that, and in the stroke panel, I'm going to give it a dash, a 1/2 point dash, and a 4-point gap. And then I'll go back here and squeeze it a little bit just horizontally to make it a softer wavy line, and then move that into place. And then the last detail are these little berries. They're just circles. So I'll grab the ellipse tool and hold down Shift. And then I'm going to swap the fill and stroke. Shift X is the shortcut. And then I'll go over to the swatches panel and add color to this one before I copy it. I've got a swatch here for it. And then copy and move them into place. And just scatter them around on the vine. And now I'll group everything. Select and Command or Control G to group them. And if you want to use the same background and color palette as I did in the sample art for this class, I've also got it right here in the file. It's just invisible right now, but over in the Layers panel you can turn on the background art, and then you can turn off the tracing art. And then I'll change the color of the line here just by switching to the white arrow, and I'll select one of the black paths here. And then up to the Select menu and choose Select, Same, and Stroke Color. And with this selection I can go back over to the Swatches panel and choose this ivory swatch here. And then I'll move the vine into place at the border. And I like to have it interacting with this edge a bit here. I'll just turn on my own layer here where I've placed it. Well, we've come to the end of our lessons in Swirl Shop. I hope you've enjoyed working on these projects. One of my favorite things about working in vector art is the versatility. Everything you make has the potential to be remade into new designs just by adding a different color palette, scaling, flipping, repeating, and you can create something completely new. So I hope you have fun using these swirls and vines and frames you've created in your own design work. And I hope you'll enjoy using Illustrator even more. And thank you for taking this workshop.